Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show, a Baxter Professional Services production.
Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. We are experts in nursing and experts in business. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. We interview nurse leaders and encourage them to tell their story. Join us and support these wonderful nurse entrepreneurs and leaders. Today's guest is Allison DeMajistre. Hello and welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy. I'm Tina Baxter and I'm your host. Thank you for tuning in with us today. Today we have Allison, is it DeMajistre?
DeMajistre.
DeMajistre.
Close, very close.
All right. She is the owner of the Cardioscribe. She's a medical writer and certified critical care registered nurse. She specialized in cardiology, but also writes for several other therapeutic areas, including in journalism, blogging, continuing medical education, and patient education. So I want to say welcome, Allison, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Would you like to kind of further introduce yourself?
Sure. I am a critical care nurse, as you've said, and have been critical care nurse for 10 years. I started out in a kind of step down unit and then quickly went into critical care. It was kind of where I wanted to be. I have been in several different hospitals, in several different units, but mostly focused in on cardiac care. So that's kind of where my focus has been with the medical writing, and have just kind of progressed. I did a lot of travel nursing, especially during COVID, which was, very challenging, and it actually was what made me transition to, becoming a freelance medical writer and just kind of needing some kind of outlet besides clinical nursing in that atmosphere.
I can imagine that's been quite challenging to do the travel nursing, particularly during COVID. But let's back up a little bit. What made you decide to become a nurse?
That actually is a little bit of a long story. I started out, nursing for me was a second career. I rode horses for years and years, race horses, really, and thought that was where I wanted to be for the rest of my life. As things turn, I was married. I was married to a racehorse trainer. We had a family. He had some problems, and our marriage didn't work out. So when that happened, I thought, oh my gosh, I need some way to support my family. And I knew that, I loved helping people. I loved the science part of, especially with horses. You work with a lot of veterinarians, so you have a medical background and a biology background anyway. So I thought, let me give nursing a try. And once I went to school and started my clinicals, I realized that, this was where I wanted to be, particularly, in critical care and the ICU rounds. That was really my love, just being able to focus in on people that were really sick, seeing how all the systems worked. It was really fascinating to me. And I felt like every single day I was learning something new. So, and I think that's what I love so much about nursing, is how much I've learned and how much I continue to learn every day, especially with the writing part of it too, because it's so much research.
So with your start of your nursing career, did you start in critical care first? Were you one of those lucky ones that got hired right in, or did you have to work med surg first?
I did not work med surg. I worked in a step down unit, thinking to myself, I knew I wanted to be in the ICU. And it's funny because now, after COVID, everybody everybody ended up in the ICU because that's where you were needed the most. And so they cross trained and kind of even now you see a lot of young nurses in the ICU. It was easy for them to get there because they were so needed. So when I started, it was more, grunt work and learning and really figuring everything out and talking to the critical care nurses and talking to the critical care manager and just putting myself out there, and letting them know that that's where I wanted to be. That's where I really wanted to learn. And it didn't take long. It was probably about a year of just doing that basic nursing, and it's a good thing because I don't think it's a great place to be for new nurses because it can be very fast paced and very intense, and it takes a lot learning just how to be a nurse before you even start learning how to take care of people and figuring out how to take care of people. So
Right. So how long have you been a nurse? Where did you go to school?
I went to originally, I got an associate's degree at Delaware County Community College, graduated in 2013, so it's been 10 years. And then as soon as I got finished with the 2 year, I could tell that the trend was the hospitals, especially where I am, and there's a ton of hospitals around. So it's competitive at that point to get a job in a hospital where you really wanted to be, and they were all requiring bachelor's degrees. So as soon as I graduated, I enrolled at Wilmington University and got my bachelor's degree and the BSN probably within 2 years.
Okay, awesome. So that's important for people to know that, it can be a different route. You didn't go straight into the BSN program. You
Mhm.
got your ASN, as I like to say, kind of got your feet wet and realize
Yeah,
that you get the extra education to get where you wanted to go. And that's okay.
yeah, yeah. And actually, it's funny. Um, I was speaking with one of the nurses I work with actually has a diploma. She got hers years and years ago. And she says, I'm very proud of my diploma because we didn't learn in the classroom. We learned hands on all the time. And that was the best way to learn. And she feels like she got the best education just from that. I think it was only 2 years, but it's really so intense and so educating to do it that way. And there's nothing wrong with getting an associate's, getting, like you said, your feet wet, and hands-on skills are so important. And I think that the problem, that we had with COVID was a lot of nurses didn't have that. They had to learn through, you know, computer programs, and they didn't have even like touching people and talking to people, and it really makes a huge difference in how you take care of people. And it's not just a physical thing, it's an emotional thing. A lot of people really need that support, especially from nurses, because you spend so much time with them. And in the ICU, it's not always the patient, but it's the family that you're dealing with as well.
Yes, I had some friends that were recent graduates during COVID, and they got a graduate nurse license, provisional license, because they were still waiting on their scores, but they've passed everything else. And so they're like, go to work. And they started
Yeah.
working, during the pandemic. They just were handing out licenses like, here, you've passed your schooling, you've taken the test, you don't have your scores yet, but we're going to give you a provisional license. And I think we're missing some of that immersive experience in nursing education now. I've taught in academia, and you're right, having a clinical rotation maybe 2 or 3 weeks on one unit might not be enough to really get you immersed in with the skills that you need to have. And so I'm a big fan of nurse residency programs and that type of immersive learning, because I think it's important, as well as the foundational stuff, because I see the opposite happen where nurses have been trained in their area at their hospital, and they're not able to make that connection when they go somewhere else, that maybe that was a cultural thing and not necessarily evidence-based practice, and they don't know why they do what they do. It's just that we always did it that way. And
Right.
so that critical thinking piece is so important when you're a nurse, particularly if you're in ICU critical care, because things go downhill pretty fast in those type of environments.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have to be able to pick up on it. And, I think you're right in that the nurse residency programs are great, because they give you space to learn, and I feel like nurses right now are under the gun. They give them a quick orientation. It's too quick because they need them. They need them on the floor. They need them in the rooms. They need them taking care of patients, and they don't give them enough time. And I think it causes those younger, newer nurses to be scared and not know what they should be doing. And I think that the more hospitals start to use nurse residency programs and make it a standard, I think things will get so much better. And even with retention, I think
Yes.
nurses stay put more because they feel more comfortable. They feel like they're being put in a good situation instead of always being rushed around and not knowing exactly what they're doing and learning on the fly. There's nothing wrong with learning on the fly, so to speak, but you want to have somebody there to back you up, to be able to say,
Right.
yes, this is the right thing that you're doing, or no, that's wrong. Let me show you the right thing to do. And, it's so important to have nurse educators available for all nurses, really, but especially younger nurses, because we have so many now that are getting hired into the hospitals, and just having that piece where they have somebody to turn to. And I think nurse residencies do that because they know they're covered, and by the time they're ready to go out and do it on their own, confidence, and they know what they're doing is the right thing. So, and they learn how to talk to patients, and they learn how to talk to families and doctors. Even a lot of nurses get intimidated, when you tell them, well, you need to call this doctor and tell them this is what you need. They get intimidated, and I think it just takes a little bit of time. So I think you're right. I think the nurse residency is the perfect venue.
I know when I started out as a nurse, I was in orientation on one shift and in charge nurse on the next shift.
Yeah.
And this is all pre-COVID, by the way. This is, I hate to say it, but almost over 20 years. Yeah, it's over 20 years ago. And I remember that, and all I could think of was like, just keep them alive. Keep them alive. That's all you got to do.
For 12 hours.
Yeah, I was on a detox unit.
Oh my
And I already
goodness.
did my 8 hours, so I was drafted to work the night shift. So I had 3 new admits, detoxing patients, and a no unit secretary, and an aide that could barely walk.
Oh, that's not good.
And you're supposed to do vitals every 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you're saying, that's pre-COVID,
That's
and
pre-COVID. Yeah.
that's pre-COVID. So you don't realize how tough it is, until you get in there and you see how much has to be done. And that's 3 patients. So, now they're, on a med surg floor and some telemetry floors, they're asking them to work with 5, 6 patients, and some of these people are very, very sick. They're not just, sitting in the bed and getting up and going to the bathroom and on their own. They're very sick people, and
Yes.
they need more attention than they get sometimes, and I think that just having experience and how to deal with that really helps, especially when
Yes.
you're on your own with no unit secretary and no tech and, no
We
backup.
already had 5 patients on the unit, and so they added 3 came in at admissions. And so, you're dealing with all that chaos. So I couldn't imagine being a brand new nurse during the COVID era, not knowing what's a reasonable patient ratio that I should have, because you're just do what they say, right? Oh, you
Yeah.
can handle 4 patients, no
Yeah. You can
problem.
handle it. Exactly. That's right.
Yeah,
You'll be
you're
fine. You'll be
and you
fine.
expect you're supposed to be able to handle it, right? Because you're new,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
what leads to burnout later on, and this is why we're seeing more young nurses leaving the profession.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I think it has a lot to do with putting too much pressure too early, and making newer nurses especially feel like they can't do it. That they need they have the knowledge, they have some practice, and they don't want to feel it anymore. They don't feel that feeling of not being able to do what they need to do because they don't have time, or they don't. That's the other thing about nursing is time management is not something that comes naturally, especially when you have 5 patients. I know as a critical care nurse now, if I get pulled to a med surg floor here and there and they give me 5 patients, my brain is going to explode because it's too much for me to deal with. I'm used to 2 patients, at the most 3 on a bad day, and I can't keep track. So, when you're a new nurse, you have to learn that 5 patients, and there's all these new things you're learning, and it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming, and to feel that every day when you go to work is not a good feeling.
Well, think about this. Most nursing students in training, they may have 1 or 2 patients max. So they don't usually get 5 patients that they got to go pass meds on, right? So it's usually
Yes.
one or
Yeah.
two, and you're taking them from that environment and saying, "Here's 5." In
Here you go.
psychiatry, it's no. You might have 10.
Yeah.
In the nursing home, on a bad day, you
Money.
might have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've reported on stories like that where there's one nurse for 90 residents. How is
Yeah.
that safe? How is that fair? And you expect them to get good care. Yeah,
Yeah.
so those are some of the challenges that we face. So, let's transition a little bit, because I wanted to know, how did you get into the medical writing, and what types of topics do you write on?
So I got into the medical writing. I have another bachelor's degree, which was in English and creative writing. And I actually did art as well. So I did some drawing and painting. So I had that with me through these years, and I always wanted to write, and I never knew what to write, but I knew I was good at writing. I was one of those people that I had good grammar. I was kind of a grammar Nazi. I'll correct my kids' English or whatever, and their grammar, which gets on their nerves. But that's natural to me. So I knew I could do it if I kind of put my mind to it. So it didn't necessarily start as medical writing, um, but I knew I wanted to do something independently and be able to do it at home, and have some independence and ownership of what I was doing. So I started just exploring, and I took some kind of little online courses here and there that were self-guided, and um, I I learned a little bit about the business, and I actually um, through LinkedIn I saw an advertisement for blog writing, so I wrote and I said, yes, I would love to do it. So they sent me a test article to write, which they passed and said, sure, you know, and it was for 3 cents per word, and it was on real estate articles or blogs that were they'd send you the topic, and then I had to write 1,000 words on it. So for $30 an article, I was pulling my hair out because I didn't know anything about, real estate or being a realtor and selling houses. But I got it done, and it was good because I learned how to um, put links in a Google Doc and just little things that I didn't know how to do. And then, everybody's always talking about niching. You have to niche. You have to figure out what you want to write about, and really concentrate on that. So I thought, I know about this, and it's something that I can do. So I just kept kind of getting more information, and LinkedIn really has helped me kind of connect with other people and learn from them. So it is a lot about your profile on LinkedIn and connecting with the right people. And um, so I did that, and I just got a little bit more confidence and started to. The first thing I did, I was scrolling through my phone one night when I couldn't sleep and looking at, I think it was like Indeed or something, and I found a job posting for a subject matter expert that could be a nurse. So I applied to it, and they got back to me the next day, and it was a company that does videos for patient education. And so I've been doing that just freelance, but
Hmm.
I had no idea how to write a video script, none whatsoever. Didn't know anything about it, but um, I knew I could learn how to do it. And I think that's the most important thing for anybody that wants to try something new, especially a nurse or somebody that's not happy with, where they are presently, is, have confidence in yourself. You know what you know, and know that you can build on it. And so that's kind of what brought me to that. So I got the video script, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And now I'm very busy. I'm almost too busy, but I get worried, so I just keep taking stuff on, and I get it done, and I enjoy doing it. But it's it it snowballs a lot of times, and I know other people say the same thing. You think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this, and then all of a sudden, you're in high demand, because I think people need writers. Especially now, you take it for granted because you can write, but not everybody can write. And
No.
research and figure out how to put things together.
So that brings us to what's happening now in Hollywood with the writers' strike. And one of the things they're worried about is the chat GPT or chat, whatever it's called. And those things, so AI coming and taking over some of the
Yes.
writing. And I know for myself that I participated in some of those articles that were AI started on LinkedIn, and I acted as a contributor to them. Is that something that you worry about?
Um, Honestly, I don't at this point. I know I've seen the protests with AI. I guess as far as AI goes, it could go anywhere. It's pretty incredible. Um, but I think it needs to be controlled a little bit. A little, it's kind of scary how uncontrolled it is right now, whether it's writing or anything else. And I think it's wonderful in some aspects. I see physicians that read X-rays, and it can pick certain things up on X-rays more quickly. And so I think it has good aspects, but I also, as far as writing goes, when you, with the chat GBT or GPT, um, when you ask it a question, all it does is scroll the internet, and just lists what what it finds in a very generic manner. And of course, you can't trust everything that you see on the internet to begin with. So you don't know if what it's putting out there is accurate. And I know they are, um, improving it. Obviously, there's some that you can put in kind of the references that you want, and it'll go through journals and scan it and bring you out the information. But there's there's a human aspect to writing that I don't think it can be replaced in a lot of venues. I mean, it might be able to be replaced in a textbook or something that's very generic, but I think that writing, you always hear with writing, people tell you to find your voice, and everybody has a specific way of writing and a specific voice in their writing that I don't think can be brought through with AI. And like I said, that could change. Who knows? It maybe become more human than we are. I don't know in the future, but um, I just don't see it replacing humans at this point. And I could be totally wrong with that.
I can't see it at this point either. I mean, I have trouble getting my TV remote to act properly when I ask it to find something. So I can't imagine it figuring out exactly all the things that you want it to say and do and sound like your voice. And I think it's important that you go back and you add that human element. I mean, I guess it could be a useful tool to get you started, but it shouldn't be your
Yes,
whole thing. Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. I think you're correct in that. And I think a lot of people use it that way is to, you know, give them a quick overview of something or some ideas or, oh, let me take that piece out of it and write about that piece and do it that way. But I think you're right. It's good for a general overview, but it's not, it just, I don't think at this point it's a replacement.
No. Which I think our jobs are secure because now we've got
Yeah,
nurse robots as well.
exactly.
I've seen those on some of the units. So that's going to be quite interesting. So
Yes.
you're still working as a nurse in the
Yes.
hospital, yes? Yes. And
Yes.
so do you
Yeah.
still ride?
I don't ride. No. I did as soon as I graduated from nursing school, that was pretty much the last time I sat on a horse, because I was actually, that was my source of income. So I was riding horses to make money to put myself through school. And as soon as I graduated, that was my last day, and I do miss it. I do miss horses, and my daughter actually rode for a long time too. So I got to be around horses, and they're, I love them. They're lovely. And, I spent a good part of my life around horses, but I just feel like that part of my life has gone by, and I'm okay with that. Whereas I think when I was in my 20s or 30s, I wouldn't have been okay with it, but now I am for sure.
Well, now you can ride them for pleasure instead of work if you want to ride again.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, when you're doing your freelance work, do you have like a company? I mentioned you had your own company. Is that what you is it an LLC or the Cardioscribe?
No, it is just an independent. I'm not an LLC.
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of all new to me as well. Just having my own business is new to me. And it's been educational and challenging, just setting up for taxes and, the whole marketing myself because it's just me. I'm the only one. So figuring out that whole aspect, especially with social media now, which, yes, I have two kids that are great with social media and usually pretty much laugh at me when I, show them things that I put up, and just roll their eyes. But um, it's a learning curve for sure. But it kind of just goes back to, you can figure out a way to do anything, and that's kind of how I feel. And I just mostly, as far as social media goes, I've focused mostly on LinkedIn. I've been having a lot of fun with Instagram, which I
Mhm.
knew nothing about beforehand, but it's actually kind of fun, and you can personalize it some, and so that's good too. And I like LinkedIn because I can be myself, and still meet a lot of really cool people.
Well, just in thinking about the business model, because when you were talking about feeling a little bit overwhelmed with almost too much work, my first thought, I'm putting on my coaching hat again, but my first thought was, maybe you could grow by bringing in people under you that want to learn how to do what you do, and
Mhm.
you can have them write some of your stuff,
Oh, yes.
and you kind of pay them, but they get paid less, and I'm just thinking of ways to scale your
Right.
business. And so it
I had to
started
keep
my
you
wheels.
around.
Yeah. So it started my wheels turning. I said, oh, this would be a great model, because I know there's probably other people that want to learn how to get into the business, because I see those ads, those nursing ads from different courses and things like that that offer this type of thing. And I think you'd be great to just tell people that are new to it. Not, you're
Yeah.
right. Not everyone is a writer. Not everyone has that gift, but it's a skill you can learn. You can
Yeah.
learn, and if you have that
Yeah.
leaning towards writing, you can always learn to be a better writer. Heck, I might have you
Mhm.
critique some of my blogs. Better
Exactly.
writer.
Well, it's funny because I have I have a website and a blog, and a lot of times I don't have time to get the blogs out, and
Hmm.
a lot of times they're just SEO driven things. So, I show up on Google or whatever. So I do have guest writers to write the blogs, which they're just people who want to have something on their portfolio, something to
Yeah.
say, hey, this was published, and I totally welcome it. And I agree with you. I think that more you see people every single day, nurses that are, medical writers, health writers, and trying to get into the business, and they message me all the time, just asking, for advice and how can I do it, um, and I do know that even nurses that have been writing, for 3 years are now, teaching courses. And it really is, it's a great business model. It really is, because I think that it's a very needed uh, service right now, because so many people want to learn. And looking at it the way you put it, that's probably not a bad idea to have people that are learning from you, and actually I do know one nurse who's a writer who she started as she has the guest writers, and they actually pay her to write, and she edits their articles, so they learn from, how to write through her editing those articles, and that's a great idea too. So she's actually,
Yeah.
you know she's writing and she's also teaching at the same time.
Well, I often think that sometimes we have things that are right there in front of us that we may not necessarily see. And
Hmm.
this is why I have this podcast, because I want other nurses out there to listen to the podcast, hear what you have to say, and go, I can do that. Right.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
never thought I was going to be a podcaster, even though this is full disclosure. Years ago in high school and college, I was a radio DJ.
Oh, wow, there you
And
go.
I learned how to talk on mics. I know how, the background stuff and a little bit of sound, a little bit of editing. I had a little bit of that. And
Hmm.
so fast forward to COVID, And I started out just doing a Facebook live show, telling people where to
Mhm.
get PPE and who was hiring and how, the latest COVID numbers in our county. I started a news show doing that.
Mhm.
And now it's grown to a full blown news show every week.
Yeah.
And couple that with later on a podcast as well. So you don't know what you have in your back pocket as a nurse. All those experiences that you've had come together to make something great. And I could see there's a couple of different things that you could do, just off the top of my head, with your love for horses and your love for nursing. There's a lot of places around that do like a horse therapy. And maybe you
Mhm.
just kind of help somebody, learn about how to take care of their horse, because there's a lot of people that buy horses and don't know what to do with them. So
Yes.
we're not going to get into that, but yeah, and so those type of things, and taking what you know about horses and how to keep the horses healthy, and what you know about humans, how to keep them healthy, all those different things, you can utilize those skills in whatever way that you want to do. And quite frankly, I think you got a book in you.
You know what? It's funny you say that because I was thinking about that. For years, I've wanted to write a book, but a novel. But sometimes I think, from experiences, and this is something that I've learned from nursing and from
Mhm.
uh, talking with patients' families more than anything, and relating to them, especially as I had mentioned the alcohol, and we see a lot of alcohol withdrawal
Yes.
in the ICU, and you don't necessarily think that people want to hear your story when it's your story, but people gain so much when
Hmm.
they're having when they're in crisis. They draw so much from somebody who's had that same problem at some point, and just to learn how they dealt with it, and just to hear that somebody was in the same situation as they are, and um, so I guess my point is that, when you say, oh, I think I'll write a book about myself in this situation, you think, oh, nobody wants to hear about my situation. But you can help so many people with when if you've gone through something that's made you grow, I guess, then people can learn from that, and you don't realize how much they want to learn that and want to hear your story. And I guess we see that a lot with social media now. Like, everybody kind of wants to know what's going on with everybody else. um,
Yes.
so
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I've thought about that. I just, right now, I don't have time to do it. But would I think that I would definitely consider doing it, just if anything, to help other people, if they were having trouble as well.
Well, I think that that would be very helpful for a lot of people to know that you can, one, have a second career. You can pivot and change. You can persevere. You can overcome things that have happened in your past that may not have been positive, and
Yeah.
use that to fuel you to go further. And I think that's a common thread in all of humanity, is that need to overcome and to persevere. And I think just by tying those things together, your story may give other people the courage to make a change. I mean, you were a horse jockey, right? A horse trainer for a long time. And to make that stretch from riding horses to nursing may seem like an incredible leap for someone. But just
Yeah.
knowing that you've done it will make it possible in their minds that maybe I could do it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. And I'm glad you said that, because I get it validates it, like thinking that maybe somebody could use that knowledge. It validates it. That, are you going to write the outline, like which way I should go with it?
Yeah, you know what? We can definitely work together because I'm in the back of my mind. I'm very
Right.
serious here. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to put you on the short list because I'm wanting to do a challenge, and in the next few months. And I was thinking I need to have you on as a guest on the challenge because there's so many people that want to write and don't know
Yeah.
how to get started or what to do. And I think this would be an excellent segment for people on the challenge or maybe in the jumpstart. Um, Business program that I have coming up. I mean, I've got a lot of things that are on the market because my goal is to help nurses to figure out what other things they can do. So my philosophy always is you can leave your job, but don't leave your
Mhm.
profession.
Yeah.
Take those nursing skills that you've learned and use them in a different way. You never stop being a nurse. You're going to be a nurse to the day you die. I don't care if you give up your license, you're still going to be a nurse. it,
Yeah.
it, there's
That's true.
something about nursing that it's in your pores. It comes out of
Yeah.
you, and
Yep.
and those that really feel like it's a calling, even more so.
Hmm.
And that's why I wanted to give nurses a chance to tell their story so that other nurses and others outside of nursing could hear it, because I've met so many people over the years that are like, oh, nurses can have their own businesses. Absolutely they can.
Yeah.
Nurses do more than empty bedpans. Yes, we do. And so
Yes.
I want people to hear that story. And I thank you for sharing your story because it was very inspirational to me.
Oh, great. Well, I'm so thankful that you let me tell the story.
Yes. So I'm gonna get ready to wrap up here. But so my last question is gonna be, if there's a budding writer out there, a nurse that really wants to do this type of business, what would be your first piece of advice for him or her?
If you want to um, do it. And don't let your own mind bring you down. If it's something that you go for what you want. Don't stay stuck somewhere that you're not happy with, because there's so much out there that you can do, whether it's writing or being an advocate for people. You don't have to be at the bedside. um, I don't know, work clinical trials, doing whatever. Like you said, nurses have so much to offer in so many different ways. And I don't think that they realize it, how valuable your knowledge is, and how valuable uh, your ability to communicate is. And it's something that, um, there's a reason why you became a nurse and why you practiced as a nurse also. And to be able to do that, you can do anything. You made it through nursing school. You can do anything, in my opinion, if you survive that part of it.
That's what I said.
You can
Nurses
do
have,
anything.
yeah.
But yeah, my advice is don't let your own mind hold you back, because it can. You just have to have confidence in yourself. And I tell my kids all the time, you can do anything you want to do. Don't ever doubt yourself. I mean, if you want it, go and get it. And I don't care if it's something that's way beyond what you ever thought you can do. Just put your mind to it. And it might take you 10, 15 years, but you have the time. Just work at it, and you'll
Mhm.
get where you need to go.
The idea is just get started.
That's right. Exactly. Just get started.
Get started. Put the first words on the page.
That's right. One foot in front of the other.
Yep. Well, I want to thank you for being an excellent guest. I'm so excited to have met you and to hear your story. Um, this is the Nurse Shark Academy. I'm Tina Baxter, the host, and I want to thank you for tuning in today. How can they get a hold of you?
You can go to my website, which is the cardioscribe.com. allcinsdemajistre.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn, I do have a business page on LinkedIn, but you can also get me at my LinkedIn name, Allison DeMajistre. And also I'm on Instagram, the Cardioscribe on Instagram, which is kind of fun. It has lots of good pictures. I'm going to start doing videos if I ever get bold enough to do that. And I can do it, but I'm getting there slowly.
We can talk about that because I've become a video pro.
Okay, I need a pro guidance.
Well, again, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Nurse Shark Academy here with Allison DeMajistre. Did I get it right?
DeMajistre. Close.
DeMajistre. Just.
Got it.
Okay. I'm going to get it right. Jestry. Okay, DeMajistre. I'm writing it phonetically.
Okay.
So I'll do it right when I do your promo. DeMajistre. And I want to thank you for your time, and thanks for tuning in to the Nurse Shark Academy. You can find our podcast on Podbean, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please leave a comment, and we'll be happy to talk with you. And if you're a nurse and you own a business, we'd be happy to have you on the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Nurse Shark Academy show wherever you get your podcasts or watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you'll know when all of our episodes come out. If you want further information, you can contact us on the nursesharkacademy.biz.